Welcome, everybody. We will be live in just a bit. Well, we're live now, but we'll be doing the podcast in just a bit. How's everybody doing? Alex, how we doing?
I guess I'm all right.
Well, you got to talk for me because now I'm massively retweeting because that's what I do when I manage 3 separate Twitter accounts on my phone. Otherwise, this doesn't happen, guys. Okay, come on, where is it? It's been a week, guys. It really has. But unfortunately, last week it was just there wasn't a whole lot to talk about.
It's probably for the best anyway, because last week Hurricane Irma was closely approaching Florida. It was going to make landfall the next day. So really, at the end of the day, we probably wouldn't have had much of a viewership anyway, because everybody would have been focused on that.
And do we look like CNN to you? Well,
No.
I guess we could. We could dress better and all that. I mean, we could.
Yeah, could wear suits and ties and everything. Become professional journalists of journalistic integrity.
What Alex just described, that doesn't exist.
Biggest contradiction of words since military intelligence.
When my lowly little opinion-based podcast is actually reporting on stuff more accurately than games media is, then we have an issue.
Say, that's a good segue.
I'm not just talking about Destructoid. Somebody actually brought to my attention, it was like 6 months ago, we reported on something that it was a site I'd never heard of, but it was gaming news. And we reported on that story better than they did.
Right. Well, speaking of that, right, because I noticed it's not on the agenda, so I figured maybe we'd talk about it here in the pre-show, is the whole, you heard of the whole Cuphead controversy, the journalists who got railed for not playing the game good enough.
So 3 of our wonderful friends who are listeners actually brought this story to my attention, specifically Sid Alpha's video on the matter, and it almost made the agenda. But, well, we're going to be face-palming about enough crap on YouTube tonight. So I figure best to leave it at that. But, apparently the thing that threw me aback was, like, this wasn't a one-time deal. This guy had, like, a track record going back as far as, like, 2007, 2006 of him doing crap like this. And because, like, I think the earliest one that he has is the original Mass Effect, and he didn't actually utilize his talent points, and he blamed the game for that and gave it a low score.
Right. I heard.
So I'm like sitting there going, so you're blaming the game for a mechanic that you didn't utilize properly, and thus it got a bad score? And this guy still has a job in 2006. And now it's 2017, people. Well, when did the original Mass Effect come out? It had to be like 06, 07. But this guy has had a job at the same place for 10 freaking years.
Yeah, well, most of his specialty is basic tech journalism. He's not really meant to be a game reviewer.
And clarify that on your magazine and put somebody legit into gaming. Because yes, there is.
I agree.
Because these days there is a distinction. Like, there are the gadget people who are reviewing iPhones and iPads and all that stuff, and they're their own deal. And then there are game reviewers, kind of thing.
Yeah, the first one was 2007.
2007. So 10 years.
2007.
10 freaking years, and nobody caught on to this. That's amazing to me. But I mean, I guess that's the pat on the back for us, is that, we do our job better than he does, or we do his job better than he does. So there you go. a friend of mine just posted to me. It's like, you can't complain about doing a good job until you get back to a regular schedule. Okay, fair point. It's not my fault my PC decided to, or my motherboard decided to up and die.
Yeah, what terrible timing.
Yeah, and to answer the question that a few people asked, like, what did I do, like a full-on PC overhaul or anything like that? I replaced, since the motherboard that I upgraded to worked on a different socket than my processor and my RAM cards, I upgraded those, but everything else stayed. So at that point, like, yeah, that was pretty expensive, but it wasn't like I was buying an entire PC all over again. So that's what I replaced. I replaced some vital parts, but like my hard drives, my graphics card, all those remain the same. Let's see. Other stuff that didn't make the cut this year or this year. Yes, we do a yearly podcast. And it's that time of the year again. That time of the year again. The other thing that people wanted to ask is if any of us had seen the new It movie. I have not. I have no interest in it.
No, I don't even like the miniseries
I didn't even
that
see the
much.
original. So
I don't like the miniseries that much beyond Tim Curry. That's really the only reason to watch that.
Yeah, I've never seen it, so I had really no inclination to go and watch it.
Heard it's good, but I've never been a fan. I'm not a huge Stephen King fan outside The Shining, but even then, I only like the Stanley Kubrick version because Stanley Kubrick.
Well, I'm not a fan of it. Like Stephen King, I've read. Well, I thought I'd read books from him, but I don't think I have because a lot of people have said the books that I thought were his were not. I am interested in reading The Dark Tower because I have been hearing if you're a mega geek, you'll love it. But yeah, I just don't have an interest, so I haven't seen it. The other thing that we need to get into was crap, I had it in my head, and yes, for all the people who are sending out little itty bitty bits from the Nintendo Direct, we're going to be covering it tonight. So don't worry about it. All the little itty bitty stuff is going to be covered. We're probably just going to list them off and then we'll give our opinions on it. As far as the people who have been asking if I played the Octopath Traveler demo, no, I have not. I have not had enough time, but I have considered doing a direct tries for it because I am very interested in that RPG and I've been hearing good things from friends. I haven't looked on the internet to see what they think of the demo. So please don't send me what Kotaku thought because I'm not going to care. Here's another one. This barely didn't make the cut for the stories tonight, and that was Carrie Fisher Star Wars scripts are going to be sold at auction. And I believe it's for charitable causes, but that's actually
I would imagine so.
The Carrie Fisher's hand-annotated Star Wars scripts are going up for auction. Profiles in History have announced that the Fisher scripts for A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return to the Jedi will be going up for auction during a 3-day Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds personal property auction on October 7th through 9th. Let's see. Does it say where the proceeds go? It doesn't actually, like the article that I have right now doesn't say that we know exactly where the proceeds are going, but I would have a feeling it's probably to a charity of some kind. If I'm wrong, then you guys can let me know. But that's awesome. I actually like that idea because, you know, it's one of those things where obviously geeks are going to pay to have those things, and it's not like it's worthwhile for Carrie Fisher's family to keep them. I mean, if they want to, then sure. But they've obviously given their consent. So that's great. What's another one that actually didn't make it? Oh, yes, the Telltale has hired a new CEO. It's interesting. They've now hired Pete Hawley, I think is how you say his name. Yeah, Pete Hawley, who is the former general manager and senior VP of games of Zynga. Has now been appointed the new president and CEO of Telltale Games. He is going to be replacing, I think it was, acting CEO Dan Connors, who was replacing Kevin Bruner earlier this year. So that's awesome. I haven't played a whole lot from Zynga, so I mean, as long as he knows how to run a company, then I don't really care. And right now, Telltale is very successful. So this doesn't necessarily seem like a bad thing. I mean, they haven't even finished their Guardian series this year, and they already have Batman season 2. They've already hinted at Wolf Among Us season 2. And despite all the bad news, they still hint here and there at Game of Thrones season 2 and a new Walking Dead. So yeah, I think it's going to work out. As long as he can keep them on the right track, then I don't see a problem. And let's see. Yeah, the rest is basically like either attached to stories that we have already, or I just don't want to get into them. I almost didn't want to get into the whole Death Note thing because I don't necessarily see a whole lot of bad in what the guy said, because like somebody actually reached out to me and gave me the story basically saying he was ridiculing people who were criticizing him, and I didn't find those tweets anywhere. Granted, he's deleted his account, but they didn't actually show me the tweet to say that he was doing that, aside from one that was basically saying it's a movie, get over it, which, guys, is a valid argument. You know, this is fictional entertainment, but I almost didn't talk about it because of all of the backlash, so to speak, that the Death Note movie is getting. And I don't understand why, because Death Note fans, you knew what you were walking into.
True, you should have known it wasn't going to be good.
I mean, for somebody who's walking in brand spanking new, doesn't know Death Note, doesn't know like all that stuff, then okay, you have an excuse. But there were so many in there that were hardcore Death Note fans, and I'm just like, but you were following the news before, right? Where they did kind of announce that they were going to Americanize Death Note. You already should have known not to see it because it was going to piss you off. I didn't see it, and I saw very little in its advertisement. And I made that clear. I intentionally dodged those stories, aside from the Willem Dafoe one, because I think we reported on that.
Right.
But, I mean, like, when I just barely saw the Netflix trailer. Just because we're talking about this tonight. I was like, yeah, I'm not interested in seeing this. It's an Americanized Death Note. I don't want to see an Americanized Death Note. I know that's not going to be entertaining for me. So yeah, I just don't understand the backlash right now, because we as geeks and fans should have known better.
It's the internet. We get pissed off over everything.
I don't know. I'm trying not to. I am this week. I really am. Oh, and the Blizzard fans did want me to get into this. So what are my thoughts on the BlizzCon virtual ticket announcements? I think it's awesome. So basically what they've said is usually the virtual ticket is just to cover the BlizzCon event, but via like a telecast feed. This time around, they're actually going to be doing additional stuff leading into BlizzCon. They're probably even going to have, they kind of hinted at the fact they might even have some announcements via the virtual ticket. So even people who are going to BlizzCon might actually want to purchase the virtual ticket. So you don't miss anything. And their first announcement was that World of Warcraft players who have the virtual ticket got 2 snazzy new mounts, which my wife is obviously very jealous of because she's actually seen them and she likes them. We may have to purchase a second virtual ticket so that she can have it. But it's basically 2 airship mounts that you can get in their 2-person mounts. So like you can take a friend along if you want. But yeah, it's I'm very excited for that, and I will probably try to cover as much of that as I possibly can. I was already planning on doing BlizzCon coverage again this year. But now I have additional stuff to be able to talk about in additional vlogs. So I'm excited for that. But right now I'm not worrying about that too much because I'm catching up on half a week's worth of schedule missed. So much so that I wasn't able to record Final Fantasy VII or Diablo 2 footage this week. So I know a lot of people are going to be like, first world problem. Well, but that's the way it goes because I ran out of time and my wife works on the weekend. So when she's working, there's no recording opportunities for me. I am taking care of a toddler. So at that point,
right.
I wasn't able to record any of the stuff because of the motherboard situation. And that's just the way it is. Yes, it sucks, but I'm planning on making up for that next week with a second Diablo part for you guys. I don't know if a second Final Fantasy VII part is going to happen, but we'll see. And on top of that, I already do have to get a, not a try, but a vlog out for Samus Returns, because it came out today. I literally just got it in my hands like 2 hours ago. So I have not been able to play any of it. But those are pretty much the ones that I have, unless you have additional stories that people have brought to your attention, Alex.
No.
Okay. That's pretty much it, guys. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we have tonight, we will be talking about in the stories, because we're going to be having... I'm going to go ahead and mute the mic so that I don't blow you guys' ears. That feels better. Okay, so we're already going to be having the Pewdiepie situation. We're going to get into it reluctantly. I was really tempted to not even include this tonight, but, well, this does affect YouTube and the internets, so we have to talk about it. We're also going to have an additional story that actually didn't make our agenda, but I'm gonna approach it the very beginning. It's not necessarily a story, it's more of a request for people. So there you go. We have the Nintendo Direct details, and we're just going to go through those in depth. We're going to be talking J.J. Abrams returning to Star Wars, even though I don't think he ever left. And then also the left hook that I actually got today and thought was cool is that Shinichiro Watanabe is working on an anime short for Blade Runner. Interesting. And welcome, Stephen Romney.
Hello.
Hello. And I think it's just going to be the three of us tonight, because I haven't heard anything from Aldo or Brenton that they want a piece of this action. Which sucks for you, Brenton, because there are many boners to be had tonight. Can we say that honestly? Like there's some downsides this week, but I mean there actually is some fairly good Nintendo stuff. So I'm not saying it's all bad, guys. I really am not. And you guys can ignore the clickety clack of our keyboards because I'm doing all this. There we go. We're all ready to go. Oh, the other one that actually got carried over from last week that people wanted us to talk about. We could probably get into that one. So it is officially confirmed Shia LaBeouf is not coming back to Indy 5.
Oh yeah, I heard that. I'm not surprised.
And I love how the people actually put it, which is we have quote no plans for him. It's like we didn't even write him in.
Yeah,
we didn't even write him in.
Well, yeah. Given what Shia has been up to over the last couple of years, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Well, yeah, I remember reading into some stuff how his agent was basically trying to make him the next Tom Cruise, and well, as we've clearly seen with his choice of projects, he wanted to get as far away from that type of persona as possible.
The next Tom Cruise as in walking basket case, or next Tom Cruise as in serious actor?
More like next Tom Cruise as in mainstream movie star that sells pictures and does mainstream stuff.
So we're talking pre on Oprah's couch.
Well, sort of, because considering he can still sell a movie, considering that the Mission Impossible films still do really well.
Well, The Mummy would beg to differ.
Well, The Mummy would beg to differ, but Tom Cruise is still a household name and still puts butts in the seats, even if the film is bad. It's a fact of Hollywood.
I love it whenever Romney says puts butts in the seats. Like I immediately flash back to being on the Running the Ropes podcast, and where we and David will talk about, you know, how Jim Ross would just say, we got to put the butts in the seats and we got to fill the arena. And these wrestlers are the ones that'll do it. And that's every time Romney says put butts in seats. That's exactly what happens to me.
Well, it's because that's what people say in film. It's like, okay, you got to give people the kind of thing they want that will get them to pay the money and put their butts in the seats. Especially if you, on top of that, it's like, okay, we need to give them what we want to get them to buy the special weird dorky glasses and put their butts in the seats.
Yep. All right. Well, it's pretty much 8 o'clock, so if you guys are ready to go, let's do this.
All right, sound speed.
Okay.
Rolling.
3, 2, 1. And here we go. Let me just get this all set up again, and then we'll be okay. All right. I'm going to get this up. And that way I don't have to worry about it later. So, ignore my coughing, everybody. Greetings once again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, the podcast where we talk the week's events in Geek for Friday night, September 15th, 2017. I am your host, Adam Mickelson. I hope everybody's had a good couple of weeks. Unfortunately, there wasn't too much news that we could actually cover last week, so we took the week off. But we're here, we're back, we're excited. We've got plenty of stuff to talk about, and of course, I am being joined by my usual panel of fellow YouTubers, fellow geeks, fellow content producers overall, and let's go ahead and start things off with Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost of From the Shelf, Romney's Reviews, and can we officially announce the new one? Has it started?
Not yet, but it's
Okay,
actually getting really, really, really close now that I'm actually getting over my cold and I'm feeling well enough to start working on stuff again.
Yeah, by the way, thanks for giving me that. Can I just, so I actually for some reason I have a freaking cold again. I was like, who have I had in contact that has had a cold? Romney. Even though we've had no physical contact whatsoever, I blame you.
The virus is evolving. It can now be transmitted digitally. Now, if only we could figure out how to do the same with bacon.
Crap, Diaboromon has become a virus. And speaking of Diaboromon, the Shadow Blazer has come out of the shadows to combat him once again. Alex, how you doing?
Well, today my mouth's a little sore because I had my semi-annual dental appointment where I get my teeth cleaned and scraped and all that fun stuff. So, besides that, I guess I'm okay otherwise.
All right, I'm trying to understand your comment here. 7-Eleven was a part-time job. Are you saying you have a job now?
No, thankfully I'm not working at 7-Eleven.
All right, well, there you go.
I think I get the joke he's making.
I'm not getting it right off the top of my head, but I've already had plenty of crap to deal with this week, so people will forgive if my mind is a little checked out because of the stress. And today, before we actually get into the stories, this was something that I actually wanted to do last week, but like I said, we didn't have too many stories to talk about, so we just kind of skipped it. But I did want to bring this to people's attention. I've been doing it on all of my other podcasts, and that is, we love you guys as an audience. We love you guys as a viewership. And I actually received a bunch of emails from you guys regarding Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma. Specifically, a couple of the people that reached out were basically saying, can you please have these people in your thoughts? I have friends, I have family. I have, one of them actually said like a neighbor that they grew up with and still loved and respected were out in these affected areas. And so I'm not going to speak for the podcast, but I will at least say that, you know, my thoughts, my prayers are going to those who have been affected in those areas. In the, I think it's the Galveston area of Texas that's been affected. And then also Florida, who have been, was it Florida or the Carolinas where it actually hit landfall?
It hit landfall.
Irma was in Florida.
It was in Florida. Okay. I wasn't sure because they were talking about like it turning into the Carolinas. So, again, my thoughts and prayers go out to those who have been affected by Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma. And I would also just ask to those who do listen to us that don't necessarily have that situation for them, please do what you can to be able to help with the recovery as well as the getting these people back on their feet. Because like I said, a lot of these people are family, friends, but overall, they're geeks and they're gamers. And so if you guys haven't already either donated or contributed food with like your local charities and whatnot, please do so because these guys seriously need it. I've even gotten one story out of the Texas area where a guy who was thankfully okay, but I mean, he was a geek and he lost a fair share of stuff. And that sucks, but kind of like what I said to him, which is you're alive. And that's really all that matters. Because as much as it sucks that your collection is gone, like your collection of games or manga is gone, those can be rebuilt. Those can be recreated, but your life can't. So at that point, I would just strongly encourage people, do what you can if you haven't already. I, for myself, have already coordinated with like my local church to get food and water down there. We literally loaded up a truck a couple of weeks ago to get stuff going down to the Texas area. And I know that they were getting stuff going for Florida. And I mean, I've also done things like buying the WoW charity pets to be able to help through American Red Cross for that. But please do what you can to be able to help out our fellow geeks out in Texas and in Florida who are being affected by hurricane disasters right now. That would be awesome. And that would show that we can all come together. We can all disagree on many things, but we can at least come together when it counts. And if Romney and Alex have also done something, you're more than welcome to bring that up. But if not, then let's go ahead and get into the podcast tonight. And once again, just do what you can, because this is a sucky situation for everybody and nobody ever plans for crap like this to happen. So, well, they plan, but not in this case. And now we go from trying to get people to help to a bunch of people face palming and then not realizing why. But you will realize why as we go into this. So people might remember earlier this year, we talked about famous YouTuber Pewdiepie, aka Felix Kjellberg.
It's
and
Kjellberg.
how he is it Kjellberg?
Kjellberg. KJ
Kjellberg.
makes the
Okay.
CH sound.
Thank you. Felix got himself into a little bit of hot water earlier this year, specifically with the Washington Post. In a specific video, he put up he paid a bunch of people $5 to, I can't even remember what was actually said on that sign, but it was like, I can't even remember. But this obviously got him a lot of heat from the Washington. Do you remember, Romney, what it was?
Vaguely. It was
Yeah.
something
It
involving...
it was something I can't quote it directly, but I know it was really anti-Semitic. It was like kill
Yes.
Jews or something like
Yeah,
that.
it was kill all the Jews. It was like a bunch of, or it was like two guys, one holding a sign saying kill all the Jews. And obviously, PewDiePie suffered a lot of flack from that. He got constantly harassed by the Washington Post as well as social justice. SJWs. I can't say the word. It hurts me. I can't say it.
Yeah.
But he got hit by numerous people, including the fact that he lost his second season of Scare PewDiePie, which means that his crew and all of them, that they got fired. He also lost his sponsorships with Maker Studios.
Maker.
Yeah, with Maker Studios. And actually, in a lot of cases, because of PewDiePie, I actually would say he was kind of the triggering event that started the adpocalypse, because he was the guy who was basically the triggering event for a lot of advertisers to say, well, we don't feel good about having these guys sponsoring our products. So I'm not saying he's the direct cause, but you could say that the events surrounding PewDiePie started that ball rolling.
Mhm.
Well, if only it had ended there. But now I'm not kidding you guys. Literally about 7 months later, Pewds is at it again. So PewDiePie was playing Player Unknown's Player Unknown's Battlegrounds. I think that's how you said it. And unfortunately, immediately spouted the N-word. I'm not even going to, I thought about using the actual sentence that he used, and I'm not going to. But he actually spouted the N-word on air, on a stream, and then immediately tried to cover for it. But it was too late. The word had been said, and now he is once again in the targets of many, including it looks like BBC. Well, BBC's reporting on it. I think the Post is going back into their coverage of him. It's not a good situation for PewDiePie, and I've actually even found it interesting to watch some of the more mid-level YouTubers. I'm talking people who are like 5-6 digit YouTubers who are now already just immediately cringing, going, dang it, he screwed us again. Because now a lot of people are worried, okay, is this going to get stricter? Like, are all the restrictions from YouTube going to get stricter because this has happened? And again, it's in a media spotlight.
Yeah, although we're kind of burying the lead as to why this story is actually trending. And that's because
I'm getting that part, but
sorry.
Not only has this been an interesting situation for PewDiePie, but in particular, I know that there are other developers, but this one got particularly stated. Sean Vanneman, who is the creator of Firewatch and Campo Santo Studios, I believe is what it's actually called, has now fired off at PewDiePie. First of all, by DMCA banning all of PewDiePie's playthrough of Firewatch. And I believe he's even hit a few others too, who have in his eyes done similar language.
Well, to be fair, yeah, the Sean Vanneman hasn't actually issued the takedown. He's merely threatened to file the takedowns. And although the videos have been taken down from PewDiePie's channel, we don't know if that was because they were taken down by a DMCA takedown or if it was PewDiePie like proactively taking them down to try to get away from the firestorm.
Yeah, not even sure.
I think he did proactively take them on his own accord.
But going into the quotes that Vanneman actually did have for Felix, he was quoted as saying that he is worse than a closeted racist. And even concedes that there has to be leeway with video games, but that he is sick of this child, Felix, getting more and more chances to make money off of what we make, and basically making a stand on the fact of, and I'm probably going to murder Sean Vanneman's viewpoint. Well, and here's the exact tweet, so this will help. He actually put out a tweet a little bit later saying, freedom of speech is freedom of prosecution. His stream is not commentary. It is ad growth for his brand. Our game on his channel equals endorsement. And that actually started a little bit of another firestorm towards Vanneman, because I saw a bunch of internet critics go out in response against him and say that no, his stream is commentary, because he was also like, it was Felix being Felix, but he was also judging the game. So you can say that it was commentary towards whether or not this game was going to be a good buy for people, whether or not it was going to be worthwhile, a game for everybody to own. And I just don't agree with the whole concept of our game on your channel means endorsement, because here's the thing. You can't predict it. Let's just say for the sake of argument, like if a new Call of Duty comes out right here and now, are you going to agree with what every single streamer is going to say when they're playing multiplayer? Probably not. But do I blame you for a 12-year-old who's spouting F-bombs on Call of Duty? No, I don't, because there's only so much that you can actually predict for. And, unfortunately, the people who are buying your game are imperfect beings and therefore are going to make some stupid mistakes, including what PewDiePie did. So we may need to break this down into a couple of things, but the first thing that people wanted to know our thoughts on is, does this change our opinion from earlier this year on PewDiePie? Do we actually think that he is a racist? You guys want to open up, or shall I just go ahead and piss people off?
I'll go ahead here. Well, I don't know. I don't know PewDiePie. I don't know Felix, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say he probably isn't racist. But even if he is, to be honest, I really don't care that much. I don't care. The only time I'm going to care if somebody's a racist if they actually get into a real position of power. And I know PewDiePie has a massive cult following on the internet.
He does.
Here, and he's got a massive audience. He entertains, but I'm going to wager that 99.9% of his content, he's not spouting out gas the Jews or anything like that.
No.
The whole thing he did with that site was to make a really unfunny point about how you can pay anybody to do anything on this one particular website, and it kind of backfired on him horribly here. This was just a time when he said a stupid word that he probably heard a million other people saying this in a similar chat. He should have known better. He should not have said it, but he said it. I still don't think he's a racist, but like I said, I don't care, because at the end of the day, he's not a politician in power where he could impose true racist values upon unwilling subjects. He's just a dumb guy on the internet.
Yeah, he's in a position of power, but it's more from an entertainment perspective. And so at that point, it's not like where he's actually writing the laws kind of thing. He really isn't. But I mean, I'm trying to think, were you actually here when we did PewDiePie, or did you actually miss that episode? Because
I think I actually missed that episode.
yeah, I think we brought in Brenton for that, because we did have Brenton, and it was just, unfortunately, this kind of goes into the same bits of evidence that we had last time, which is he has these tiny little stints within his videos that are like 20 seconds of a 20-minute video where he's been an idiot. Okay. And yes, what he said offensive? I'm not denying that. But at the same time, to say that he's full-blown racist for 20 seconds of a 20-minute video isn't necessarily a wise assessment of the channel. Romney, I know that you were there for it, so where do you stand on the issue? Is he officially a racist now?
Honestly, my opinion hasn't really changed because I've just always been indifferent to PewDiePie. And so, honestly, this doesn't really change all that much, since my concern with this particular story is not so much with the conduct of Felix Kjellberg, but rather the DMCA threat that Bannerman is leveling against not just PewDiePie, but against all streamers, which we will go into later. But as for my opinions of PewDiePie, they haven't really changed because I don't think he's that funny. I mean, I guess there's an appeal to his videos, but honestly, I'm just kind of meh.
Can we just put the cards on the table? Are any of us subscribed to PewDiePie?
Nope.
I think, okay, Brenton, you may need to clarify this through the ether, but I could have sworn, like you said, that you were at one point. I don't think you are now, but I think you said in the previous episode you were at one point. Please clarify that in the comments. But because we are streaming on YouTube aside from our RSS feed. For me, this doesn't change a dang thing, because again, it's a isolated incident within, I think when I actually looked at the length of it, was like a 15-minute video, 15-minute video. It was an isolated incident. He immediately apologized for it. And I'm going to go a little bit on a soapbox here and just say, I don't necessarily blame PewDiePie for that. Because here's the thing, and Alex kind of touched on it. Culture does it anyway. So at that point, culture has made it virtually like our current geek and all overall culture, because geeks even endorse it too. We have endorsed that culture. We have endorsed for that word. Oh, I despise every variation of that word for any kind of race. They piss me off. And unfortunately, our culture has just endorsed the fact that we should use those words. Or they've done the weird double standard of, you can't use that. That's our word. And so at that point, it's like, well, great. Now you've added a forbidden fruit concept to it, and now kids are going to use it because they don't care. So can you necessarily blame PewDiePie for this? Yes. He knew it was bad, and he said it anyway. But I would also say that part of that is also on the culture that we live in right now. Because
let's also
these words are very mainstream.
Mm-hmm. Let's also address this concept, because a lot of people throw this out as sort of a defense of him that, oh, he's Swedish and it doesn't have the same connotation. I'm pretty certain in Western Europe that word is still pretty goddamn horrible. Not to mention, he may be Swedish, but he has an incredibly strong connection to the American culture because of his following here on YouTube. He does visit the United States pretty frequently, I imagine, to attend conventions and whatnot. He should definitely know better. I don't care if he's Swedish.
That's not even a worthwhile argument to me.
Yeah, and actually, to add to that rebuttal, here's the thing. People think, oh, they're Swedish. Yeah, but if you actually look at Sweden's legal system, having opinions like that, where if you can actually be thrown in jail for being a racist or having inflammatory opinions. It's an actual crime in Sweden. If you want to see what an Orwellian nation state looks like, look no further than Sweden, because it's a case of, oh, he's Swedish. Well, if anything, it shows that, hey, he has no excuse, because, again, Swedish law is actually really strict over the kind of things you can and cannot say in a public forum. And keep in mind, although he's Swedish by birth, he's lived in other parts of Europe throughout his life. There was a time where he was uploading, where he was living in Italy. I don't know if he still lives in Italy.
No, I think he's currently correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I think he's currently living in Germany, actually.
Yeah. So the whole notion of him being Swedish and that being like, he doesn't know any better. That's
Netherlands. He's living in the Netherlands now, I think.
Yeah. But to bring it back to the main point, yeah, knowing Swedish's laws regarding defamation and inflammatory language, yeah, the whole he's Swedish.
He should know a hell of a lot better.
Yeah. It's actually kind of scary how detailed some of the laws get. That's for a separate podcast, though.
Yeah. He's currently residing in Brighton, United Kingdom.
Oh, okay. So he I guess he moved again, So
yeah. So the whole, he's Swedish. Yeah, throw that out. If you know anything about Sweden's laws, that argument, it doesn't even hold a drop of water.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna spill into this, but do you want to know, guys? For all of the people who are making this argument, do you want to know what that actually sounds like? Okay, I'm not gonna say names or anything like that, but I once went to a class with a guy who was friends with a guy who was Jewish. Okay. And he would spout just anti-Semitic hate all over the place, especially on this guy. And then he would go and justify it by saying, no, it's okay because I'm your friend and I can say that. Nope, you can't. And he actually got pissed when me and a few other students and the teacher said, shut up. Okay? But that's the bottom line of it. Like, we find whatever warped rationalization that we can find to still make it cool because we love him. And by darn, we're going to make it work. And that's literally all you're doing there is, he can't be blamed. He's European. Okay, I follow a bunch of European YouTubers and none of them use this language at all. So what's his excuse? And these guys don't even cover
but
like
it's a
mainstream
gaming moment.
What was that?
Yeah, let's also address it was a heated gaming moment. That's also utter horseshit because
I've had 10 heated gaming moments this week alone, and I never spouted that word, much less F-bombs or any of that kind.
Yeah, Adams, here's a bit of context with Drac and Shadow. Drac is usually way more constrained than I am. I don't care if I swear like a sailor on Drac and Shadow, but I don't use racial epithets.
Yeah, they actually got their first sneak peek into what I actually do because now our mics can actually pick it up. But when I have a bunch of deaths, so we've been doing a Let's Play of AVGN Adventures, and that's a game where you're going to die a lot. And instead of me actually screaming F-bombs, which I think I've done like once or twice in that playthrough, most of the time it's just me going, you now get to be subjected to it. And some people love it, some people hate it. But that's where I go because I don't need to spout an F-bomb when I die.
Yes, and plus, going from a psychology perspective, if the argument of it being a heated gaming moment says a lot more about Felix than people may realize. It's not really a defense as it is more evidence to really use against him, because if that's the kind of stuff he says when it's a heated gaming moment, that kind of says a lot more about him than people may realize.
And I know a few people who will probably bring this up too is like, oh my gosh, you're blaming Pewdiepie for this, but AVGN's been doing it for years. AVGN has been doing it, but have you actually talked to James Rolfe? James Rolfe and the nerd are two completely separate beings.
Yeah, plus AVGN as a character never uses racial epithets.
No, he never did. Never did. F-bomb is the worst he ever got. Well, that and telling people where he was going to F them occasionally. But
yeah, and then graphic scatological analogies.
Yes. Much involving the poop. But yeah, what we're saying here is that make whatever excuses you want. I'm literally telling you, PewDiePie made a mistake, and as much as people are going to, I just love seeing the headline in my head. I forgive him for making this mistake. I don't expect for him to be able to not do it again because, well, he has a standing record of being able to do it again. Do I think he's a closeted neo-Nazi? No. I think he's an idiot. Moving on.
Yeah. He's trying so hard to be George Carlin, but he's no George Carlin.
Nobody is except for George Carlin. So, yeah, I mean... So I think we pretty much covered the whole PewDiePie thing. You know, like this, he's not a racist. That's just the way it goes. And I'll still stick out my whole deal of, guys, if we support a culture that just makes these words, like, these words should literally feel like bile on your tongue. They should feel nasty to say, much less hear. And we use them commonplace. That's disgusting to me. And especially when we make just dumb rationalizations of, you can't use that word, that's our word. How about we all agree on one simple thing? It's a horrible, hurtful word, and nobody should use it ever again. And for those who would sit there and go, but you wouldn't care. Okay. Alex, you curse like a sailor on Draken's Shadow. You ever use racial slurs? We're having a talk.
Yeah.
I can forgive for
F-bombs. Out to the woodshed.
Oh, no, I wouldn't need to take you out to the woodshed. Your sister would do it for me. So that's what I'm saying, guys. Is like I can forgive that Alex wants to curse like a sailor. That's fine. It's his choice. But there are unacceptable words, and that's one of them. And all of its various variations. Because either way, you're just saying hateful things because of a person's skin. And I'm sorry, but it sometimes feels like I'm the only one who actually took Dr. King's words to heart. And judging by the character of the
content of a man's character.
Thank you. Judging a man's character and not the color of his skin, I just don't see it happening anymore. So it's just a little irritating sometimes. But there, yes, thank you. Content of character. There we go. So now let's get into kind of the meat of it for YouTubers, which is Sean Vanneman. And let's just direct this as quick and directly as we can. Is Sean Vanneman's argument accurate? Can he just rip things away from you because freedom of speech is freedom of prosecution? His stream is not commentary, it is ad growth for his brand. Our game on his channel equals endorsement. Do we agree with this statement, or do we think that Sean is overreacting?
I think to an extent he is overreacting a little. I don't say he's entirely wrong. Let's plays and streams are still very much gray areas when it comes to fair use. There's two schools of thought for it in terms of where the law kind of stands, and there's really no laws or basis or cases to really point to say where it is. I think he went about it the wrong way. I understand why he's upset that somebody would use such language on a game that he made, and he obviously doesn't want to be associated. It's kind of like when we talked about when Platonic decided to remove JonTron's contributions to their game because they didn't like his comments or his opinions. They want to kind of keep their brand a little more controlled and distance themselves. Yeah. So at the end, they made that corporate decision. And I think that's what he wants to do, but I don't like the way he wanted to threaten DMCA action. I think the better way to go about it would have been to personally email PewDiePie and say, I don't approve that you have said this. I would like it if you would please remove all your streams of our game because we don't approve of this. And have PewDiePie, and I'm sure PewDiePie would have done that at his discretion. I think most Let's Players are going to have that kind of discretion, saying if a game maker doesn't really approve, we're just not going to do it. Because we don't want to make waves. We don't want to piss these people off and alienate them for future endeavors.
I think there are two things that need to be clarified here really quick. Is Sean Vanneman within his power to actually do or not just ask, demand that PewDiePie remove all of his content regarding Firewatch? And I hate to tell you this, guys, Yes. He is the content, or he is the intellectual property owner of Firewatch. He has the right to be able to say that. He has the right to be able to demand that. And if it's not done, he is within his power to hire a lawyer and fight it out. And guess what, guys? He will win. Because that's the way it works. He is the intellectual property owner. Then the second part is to immediately assume that it's your game that's being streamed. It's your game that's being Let's Played, and therefore you're responsible. I would disagree with him vehemently. It's not. Because here's the thing. You can't account for your everyday idiot, like Pewds, playing your game. You literally will not, even though your game will sell millions of copies, you're not going to know every single million individually, okay? You're not going to know every person that's ever bought your game. And therefore, if some of them decide to stream or anything like that, it's not on you. Now, when he actually does say that it's ad growth for the brand, sure. But I would actually dare say it's also ad growth for your game. Because here's the bottom line. And I hate to bring this little bit of logic because I know he loves streamers. He's even said like he loved giving out Firewatch keys to people, especially after his game got major recognition at E3 when it was shown off. Okay, but let's just for a second take E3 out of the equation. Let's just say Firewatch was not presented at E3. Streamers are really what Camposanto would rely on to get the word out about Firewatch. And therefore, the other thing that you have to consider on that is, yes, it grows our brand, but it also grows yours. Because what we say about your game is essentially advertising you don't have to pay a dime for. Okay? Because I personally praised Firewatch and love it to this day. I've played it at least 3 times. Just in my spare time, going through in different pathways. I love that game, and I will spout its glory as many ways as I can, and that's good advertisements for you. So to immediately outlaw us and say that just because of one guy, we immediately all can't do it, we don't have the right to be able to play your game live and to be able to extend or grow our brand as well as yours, not so much. And whatever we say is not endorsing what we're saying.
This is why I always hate the concept of the few ruin it for the many, because it's like, why do the few have to ruin it for the many? Why don't you punish said few and quit and leave the many alone? You know,
unfortunately, that's not how YouTube's working these days.
I know, and this is why I get the feeling. I'm not saying this is truly going to happen, but like this is a kind of a scary thought in my mind that we're going to start seeing more and more game companies, or at least more indie developers, kind of go the Nintendo route and make a very strict whitelist of specific content creators.
It really will, because I love the fact that a lot of US developers and indie developers reach out to those communities and say, yes, please play our game. Even when they get negative feedback, they do it. And I can't help but appreciate those guys, because they at least put themselves out there just as much as we as YouTubers are, to be able to get their game noticed. And depending on the person we're talking about, you know, if you're James Romine, then you don't take the feedback very well. But there are some out there that have gotten negative feedback and they've taken it to heart and they fixed it, kind of thing. Romney, you look like I've said a couple of things wrong. So.
No, I was looking through some of the comments to kind of, because there's the second article we're going off of is actually a Kotaku piece, actually discussing with multiple attorneys to see if Vanneman is in the right. And as Alex mentioned earlier, we're basically sailing in uncharted waters here. There is no legal precedent that is either protecting Let's Players or protecting companies like Camposanto Games from issuing these takedowns for any reason. Because on the one hand, yes, they are the intellectual property owner, but at the same time, the Let's Player did not sign a contract that binds them to a specific code of conduct as a condition of being able to do a stream of these games. It's very much one of those cases where, because there's no precedent, everything is kind of up in the air. And even the lawyers that Kotaku interviewed are kind of in disagreement over what is the best way any of this could be mitigated.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I actually think Leonard French brought on another lawyer for a stream specifically for this. Like, they actually debated the precedent here on, who would actually have the legal precedent. I think the ultimate decision there was that Vanneman would be more in the right or he would have more of a case with it. Because all that PewDiePie's lawyer would need to do is just mention all the other people that did it that didn't go down PewDiePie's road, so to speak. But really, the one thing that I got from, I think it was French, because I did see a stream on this one, and then I've spoken to a few lawyers that I know. The problem is that this is one of those trials that would be held more in the court of public opinion than it would actually be in court, kind of thing, because really this is stuff that's going to inflame both sides of that argument.
Well, yeah, and there's a statement in the Kotaku article. It comes from Michael Lee of Morrison and Lee LLP, which is a law firm and specifically dealing with video game law. And the statement pretty much summarizes the crux of the whole issue. And, quote, technically, video game companies can issue takedown requests for any gameplay that is posted online, and companies like Nintendo have done this in the past. Generally, the more content used and the less new content added, the less likely it is to be considered fair use. So that raises the question of how much is the Let's Player actually contributing and creating original content in the Let's Play, and how much of it is just the gameplay and just the content of the game. And that's really kind of the deciding factor here that needs to be worked out, is how much. It's the same case with reaction videos. How much of it is actually original content from the reactor and from the Let's Player to constitute it as an example of fair use?
Yeah, and frankly, the sad part is that both arguments have a foundation to be able to work off of. So it's really one of those trials that I could see going either way, but here's one of the things that makes me a little bit grateful. I don't see any of this going that far. As much as Sean Vanneman has a hatred for PewDiePie, I actually kind of agree with you guys. I saw that his Firewatch playthrough was taken down, but I have a feeling it was taken down by him first. I have a feeling Felix responded and said, sure, you hate that I have this, I'll take it down. And I think that the proper shots have been fired and heard by Felix, and therefore he's probably also going, I'm hoping Felix will start looking at, what he's saying, what he's doing, and actually start to remedy some of the idiot incidences that he has, so that he has, if for no other reason, less press coverage, because it's killing all of us.
Yeah, and there's actually a comment on the Kotaku article that kind of summarizes what may happen if things don't change. And this is from a user by the name of Mortal Dictata. And it says, while it would be terrible for many people, I can't help but drink and laugh at how YouTube's golden goose could end up being the one that practically destroys the entire YouTube industry.
Yeah.
And he goes on for quite a bit of it, but given what's been going on with PewDiePie, how his conduct triggered the quote-unquote adpocalypse, I get the feeling that unless he decides to actually change his actions because of how much sway he has, things are only going to get dicier from here.
Yeah. And look, the bottom line is that I'm really hoping that Felix has learned from this and that he will start to remedy this behavior. I honestly don't think he will, but that's just because, given his track record of behavior, I don't have much faith that he'll do that. But the other thing that I also want to get into, and this is going to be kind of the wrap up, because a lot of people have been asking, this particular aspect is, has Pewds triggered another adpocalypse? Has he basically made it so that more companies are going to pull out because of this more recent incident? I honestly don't think so, and it's just simply because those who would have been properly offended have already since worked out their differences with YouTube. And I think that right now, whatever adpocalypse algorithm is working out in YouTube, I don't think it's going to get stricter because of that situation. I think it's just going to do its job, and maybe at this point, I'm kind of hoping that people will learn from Pewds' mistake and start to remedy it within their own content.
Yeah, but there is a danger people are worrying about is how are other game companies going to react? Are they thinking, hey, this Vanaman guy may be onto something? Are they going to start trying to be a bit more controlling with what type of content is made with their products? As Nintendo has tried and disastrously failed to implement such a procedure. And so that's been kind of the major concern, at least in the comments of the Kotaku article, is are other game companies going to start following suit?
There are companies right now that are dealing with their own problems, whether it be toxicity within their own games, whether it be toxicity within their upcoming games. There's a lot for these AAA developers as well as indie developers that they need to look into for all of this. And yes, it could hurt us in the long run. We won't be able to let's play their content, which will hurt them. But here's the thing too, that hurts them as well. So at that point, maybe the only remedy that I can think of in this regard is we as YouTubers need to start voting with our dollar. And if there are content creators that are still doing this stuff, stop watching them, stop subscribing to them until they either remedy it or they leave because they are affecting things. Or if you're one of those guys, start remedying it right now. Because the more that you're doing this shit, pardon my French, the more you're hurting all of us when we're trying to get our content out and we're not doing it. Because here's the thing, what happened to Pew, it's happened to all of us kind of thing. I mean, even us lowly YouTubers have videos that are not monetized. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we've even said this to Romney, but like, yeah, I have videos. I think Alex has videos. We both have videos on Draken Shadow that have been considered not advertiser friendly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is affecting all of us. And really, this is something that as a culture, we need to change.
Yep. To quote a famous Michael Jackson song, or at least to paraphrase, it's time for all of us to take a look at the man in the mirror and ask him to change his ways.
Exactly. So I think we've pretty much covered all of this. Alex, you've been kind of quiet on the last little bit. Final thoughts on that before we move on?
No, I think I've said everything I need to say throughout the video, throughout the whole story here. But you're absolutely right. It's like PewDiePie needs to really take responsibility for himself. He did make that apology. I do think it was pretty heartfelt and pretty honest and genuine. Let's just hope he finally will actually start to take it a little more to heart, especially now that a lot of people are probably going to get their torches and pitchforks ready because they're already pissed off from the last adpocalypse.
Yep. And here's the thing. Some of them are YouTubers, and rightly so. So that's the thing to consider. Moving on, though, because we don't want to talk about the depressing PewDiePie and how he's ruined the internet again. We actually do have some additional stuff to talk about in the Tech Hour. We have some Nintendo talk because I think it was a couple of days ago. It was Wednesday. We had a Nintendo Direct. So here's how this is going to work really quick. I'm going to list off all of the major announcements that came out of it, and then we're going to get into our opinions on the stuff that was interesting to us. Because here's the thing. There are actually some aspects here aren't very interesting to every single panelist. So first of all, the Mario Odyssey Switch bundle has been revealed. So yay, you can get Mario Odyssey with a Nintendo Switch. Great, good on you. As an added bonus, I'm going to add this as a story too, because I think it was addressed in the Direct, but I'm not sure. The NES Classic Mini is coming back, and they're upping the stock for the SNES Classic when it comes to US shores as well as various other shores. And I think they're going to up that too for the NES Classic Mini as well. So we have those. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has finally a release date of December 1st in the West. Skyrim on Switch is coming out November 17th. We have additional Bethesda games coming out for Switch, which we have Doom, and we have Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus. So those will be really great mainstream titles for the Switch to have. And those are going to be coming out sometime in 2018. Now, Doom, that's going to be already a couple of years, but Wolfenstein, I think that's going to be a good 6 months or so, because I think Wolfenstein is coming out this holiday season.
It says sometime in 2018 for Wolfenstein, whereas Doom will arrive in time for the holidays.
No, I'm saying for PS4 and Xbox One, I think they'll get Wolfenstein 2 earlier than that. But there you go. Kirby's new game on Switch is called Kirby Star Allies, and the 3DS Kirby Battle Royale release date was announced as January 19th, 2018. Nintendo also announced a Pokemon-themed Nintendo 2DS XL, which is basically, it has a clamshell design of a Pokeball, which is awesome. For those who actually want that. Octopath Traveler, the Switch RPG that I've been talking about and many other YouTubers have been talking about, a demo came out literally that day in the eShop. And for those who are asking, no, I still haven't played it yet. Mario Party is making a novel return by way of Mario Party, the Top 100 for 3DS, which will be focusing on all of the mini games from past Mario Parties. That's why it's being called the Top 100. Minecraft will continue its march towards total domination because now it will be available on 3DS for the first time. And this instant, Minecraft is available for download on the eShop, so literally that day. And I think they even said that a physical edition is not only coming for 3DS, but they are looking to get Minecraft on the Switch. So that's going to be happening. We had a Pokemon Sun and Moon update. Let's see. I'm not having it officially in the article that we have. But, and then we also got Nintendo revealed a new IP for them, a MOBA for the Switch called Tencent's Arena of Valor. So the game previously launched on mobile and has 35 heroes and a slew of different modes. So it's not a unique IP. Sorry, my bad. A free beta is coming to Switch as well, but no firm date was announced. As well as a bunch of other stuff being announced online. It looks like we're going to be getting arcade archives in the Switch's eShop. So you're going to be able to get like classic Super Mario Brothers, like the original Mario Brothers, all that fun stuff. But that's pretty much wrapping up all of the coverage. Aside from the Pokemon Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon updates, I was not able to get those. But now that I can take a breath, let's get into this. So there's a lot there. Some of which we're going to care about, some of which we're not. And I'm just going to go down the line. Alex, what announcements actually caught your eye in this Nintendo Direct?
I like the look of these Breath of the Wild amiibos. They look pretty cool.
They do. They do. And I think they even got a release date, too. So I believe it's in December.
Yeah, like November.
November. Okay. So there you go. Yeah. So you like the amiibos. What else? Are you going to go out and get the 2DS XL Pokeball?
No, because I still have my 3DS.
Yes, you do.
So I don't need a 2DS.
It's one of those things that make me kind of giggle when they do all these anniversary editions of the 3DS XL and the 2DS XL. It's like, okay, you do realize that a lot of people have already bought a 3DS, right? So they're already playing your game. Or they're already playing on that console.
The thing is that they're banking on the mentality people have with iPhones where, a new version's come out. I'll get rid of my old one and buy this brand spanking new one because they added like a sticker or something.
That's the sad reality of it. I'm glad that you pointed that out because that's what it is. But aside from that, anything else that you were excited for, Alex?
I do think the Mario Odyssey Switch bundle is pretty interesting. I mean, personally, if I'm going to spring for a new bundle for the Switch anytime soon, it's probably still going to be the Breath of the Wild bundle, but I think it's a pretty cool idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually think that this is probably going to be the great way to get people into the holidays to buy a Switch, is to give them Mario Odyssey. I'm actually kind of surprised we never got at least correct me if I'm wrong, we never got a Breath of the Wild Switch bundle.
I think there is a Breath of the Wild Switch bundle.
Is there?
I said I was, yeah. I think because I was just doing a little quick price comparison of
because I mean they came out the same day, and they didn't bundle Breath of the Wild with every Switch.
Yeah, but I think there are Breath of the Wild Switches. My stream probably lagged for a moment when I said that would be the Switch bundle I would personally spring for.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's obviously a really great way to bring people in for the holidays, and if they hadn't already gotten Breath of the Wild, there you go. Maybe even add in like a coupon there where you can get it like 20% off or something like that. Romney, what about you? What major announcements from this Nintendo Direct caught your eye?
I'll start off by saying I didn't actually watch the Directs, but looking at it, there still really isn't anything here that's compelling me to go out and buy a Switch. I mean, the Kirby stuff does look interesting, and it's good that they're actually trying to push more third-party support for the Switch, but it's one of those cases where, sorry, there's still nothing on the market for the Switch for me to justify the large purchase. And again, as I've mentioned many times, disgruntled Wii U owner here.
Yeah. So, I mean, from my perspective, I'm just going to say this before I get into the stuff that I was interested in. First of all, I love the Doom and Wolfenstein 2 Switch announcement, because that shows to me that, yes, there is going to be a focus on third parties, and it's going to be a big one. And we're not just going to bring back legacy games from years ago, because here's the thing with Bethesda, the focus has been Skyrim on Switch. Okay. But Skyrim is a game that's at least 10 years old. No, at least 7 years old. I think it was a 2010 release. So we're already talking. I mean, it's been released once, and it even got an update for PS4 and Xbox One. Okay. So it's been out for a while, and the biggest focus of the Switch has been Skyrim. I love the fact that Doom and Wolfenstein 2 have been added. It shows me that some third-party developers are interested in putting out more than just an obligatory title on the Switch. They're looking to cater to many other audiences. And that, my friends, is a step in the right direction for the Switch. It's not a big step, but it's a step. My personal stuff that I was excited for, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I'm excited that it's coming out December 1st. I have been being told, especially by Brinton, that I do need to give Xenoblade Chronicles a chance, that even though it's not really connected to another Xeno game that I love, that it's still awesome and you will still enjoy it. So I'm excited about that. I was excited for the Octopath Traveler demo. I'm debating whether or not to do a direct tries for the demo, because I am just that excited for this RPG and I would really like to get my hands on it, which I can. Mario Party, not so much, and Minecraft, they don't really cater to me. I do like the new Zelda amiibos, and I might actually get some of those just to put up in my office, but I don't think I'll ever use them. And I did like the idea of a MOBA on a Nintendo console, but that was pretty much it. The RPGs were really what caught my eye for it. So I'm glad that we got so many good announcements, but I still want some more third-party announcements. I mean, we got Wolfenstein 2 and Doom. I'm happy with that. I want to get some more. And not just from Square Enix and from Bethesda. I want to hear, what's EA got cooking for you, and what do all the various AAA and indie properties have available for you guys. So there you go. And then final thoughts on the NES Classic Mini returning, and the SNES Classic getting a little bit more of a stock when it comes to Western release dates. Are we surprised by this at all?
Actually, kind of yes, because Nintendo's shown to be unbelievably bizarre with their practices of having short stock supply.
I will admit that I was a little surprised saying that they said the NES Classic Mini was coming back, but not necessarily the increased stock of the SNES Classic Mini, because, well, they've been hearing a lot of negative feedback on this one. So I had a feeling this is going to be one of those few that Nintendo would probably bow on. But the fact they brought the NES back, that was something I definitely didn't expect. So I'll at least say that. Romney, any other final thoughts?
Honestly, I saw the announcement, we're adding more stock, but I'm just thinking, okay, how long before Nintendo screws this up? Because, again, we've all been burned before, and so I'm kind of one of those, I'm not going to jump on the whole bandwagon of, they're starting to change. Like, I'll wait till I see it. They're going to screw it up somehow. They've done it before.
So to quote a military movie, start the death clock.
Yep.
So, all right, that's pretty much all of our tech portion of the agenda tonight. Our entertainment agenda has a little bit more to talk about, some of which is actually reaching over from last week. In particular, this one. We weren't able to actually address this, but I felt like it was something that people wanted us to talk about, and that was we got some additional news from the Aladdin live-action movie that they're actually going to be adding in a new and unique role into that, and they have cast what's his actual name?
Billy Madison.
Yeah.
Billy Madison, is that what it is?
Magnuson.
Magnuson.
Thank you. I'm glad you said that because I would have said Manguson for some reason. Basically, he was Rapunzel's prince in Into the Woods, but he will be cast as Prince Anders, a role that was originally not in the animated Aladdin. And oh boy, the backlash. Disney, how dare you try to add in new roles and remember. Okay.
Well, it looks like it's more of a whitewashing backlash than adding new characters.
It's both. It's adding to it because there are still those people that actually don't like the additional cast that came out in Beauty and the Beast, which part of that I don't understand because one of them was played by Stanley Tucci. And well, look, I'm not a fan of the Hunger Games, but at least Stanley Tucci was in the damn thing.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, I can understand people's misgivings about it because it's a case of unless they are actually adding something to the story,
yes.
Well, then why add them? Because we've seen cases of people trying to create and adapt new stories and then making a bunch of additions that don't actually make it better, but are just there for the sake of adding it. It's like basically a bad steampunk costume of, just glue a bunch of gears all over the place.
I see where you're going with that, Romney, but I guess where I want to go is just simply, you guys realize that the Disney animated Aladdin is not the source material, right?
But it is, isn't it? Aren't they essentially remaking the animated Aladdin?
Well, we thought that, but now they're adding roles onto it. So it sounds to me like they're going their own independent way.
Well, to be fair, it can still be based on the animated film because, again, when you look at, for example, when The Wonderful World of Disney did their adaptation of the Rodgers and Hammerstein musical version of Cinderella, they made some additions and they also made a bunch of cuts. Another good example to use from classical history, Romeo and Juliet. A lot of people don't realize Romeo and Juliet, the original play by William Shakespeare, was an adaptation of a poem called The Tragedy of Romeus and Juliet. And Shakespeare himself added characters like Mercutio and Benvolio and Tybalt to basically help develop the characters. So even if it's it's adding characters, it can still be based on a pre-existing material.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things where I just want to bring a little bit of logic here, is that, Disney is not the source material. I know a lot of us grew up with Disney animated movies, but well, Disney had to get it from somewhere, and in this case, they got it from Arabian Nights. I believe it's one of the 1,000 Arabian Nights stories.
Yeah, 1001 Nights of Scheherazade.
Sorry. But even then, they had to make some liberties because, as you've seen with most of the movies that they've adapted, they had to kind of dial down the grotesque elements and some of the more violent elements to make it more kid-friendly. So already, the animated movie was a deviation from the source material. So I'm just bringing that up for the sake of argument that, look, we've already deviated from it. I know that you guys don't like it because the way that they're casting it is this Prince Anders is supposedly going to be another suitor for Jasmine. Oh noes, Aladdin's gonna have some competition. Guys, it's Disney. Do you really think that Aladdin's is not gonna end up with freaking Jasmine? Well, you know what? I shouldn't say that because, well, Maleficent.
Which is apparently getting a sequel.
Yeah, I wasn't happy about that. But, I mean, look, I get where a lot of the internet backlash is. Well, whitewashing is a whole other thing as far as I'm concerned, because in some aspects, well, you're also casting a black guy to play a blue guy. So, I mean, this is not necessarily the worst thing ever.
Well, to be fair, that's a bit of a separate thing because again, Genie is a fantastical being. Liberties can be taken there. I mean, it's not like, again, Robin Williams, who played the original Genie, you didn't see anyone crying over the fact of, they didn't get an actual Middle Eastern comedian to play the Genie because, well, Genie, by their very nature, are ethereal. They're not actually human, so you can take those kind of liberties. True. Whereas here, a lot of the backlash seems to be the fact of, they're adding basically more white people to what is basically a non-white setting. Now, I can see that the frustration may be unwarranted, but that seems to be the real crux here.
Well, but at the same time, I would also say, like, he's supposed to be playing a Prince Anders, so Prince from a foreign land, he looks different from you. And that's supposed to be weird and supposed to add an extra element. And the other part that I would add in there is that, you know, I still remember the backlash that Beauty and the Beast got for having, was it a villager? Yeah, it was a villager that was played by a black guy. And people hated that because it hurt the setting. And even though he was put in a powder, like in powder face, okay, like, because it was still French, you know, he was still putting powdered wigs, powdered face, all that stuff. Apparently it was offensive. And I was like, okay. Again, fictional setting. If this is happening in real life, you have a leg to stand on. But since this is happening in a fictitious setting and even better, a Disney setting, which are always going to be a little more off skew because they're trying to basically dial down the source material, I'm just not there with you on it. At that point, I'm just sitting there going, well, I wasn't already on board with this movie because, well, Will Smith. But I at least would give this guy a chance. You know, he's supposed to be a prince from a foreign land. He's supposed to be competition to Jasmine. Sure, why not?
Yeah, I mean, especially considering that Jasmine is a princess and, well, arranged marriages are a thing with these types of settings. So, well, again, I'm more worried, not so much because of, Will Smith and all that. It's just more, Guy Ritchie is very much hit or miss. And so that's more the pressing concern of what the hell is Guy Ritchie going to be doing with all of this? I mean, I saw King Arthur Legend of the Sword. It does not fill me with a lot of confidence that he can handle fantasy genres that well.
I'm just saying, guys, there are other things for us to have issues with aside from this. Okay? Alex kind of has given that look like I'm totally in the wrong.
No, I really don't care, to be honest, because I've said it probably a few times. It's like, I don't care about the live action Aladdin remake. I'm not a huge fan of Disney going through and remaking their entire animated library. Mulan's sort of the still one exception to that, because I'm interested to see how that can play out, but ultimately I still just don't care about this Aladdin remake.
I mean, at the very least, I was at least somewhat more interested when they announced Naomi Scott would be playing Jasmine, but that's just because I did like her as Kimberly. I'm kind of there with you. I'm more interested in the live action Mulan, and I'm more worried about the live action Lion King.
Yeah,
but that's a whole other thing. It's one of those things where I will at least say this is that, you know, Romney, you may have been right, because we now have a Jafar, and maybe, yes, it should have been Ben Kingsley that played it. Although somebody did make the suggestion in the comments that maybe he should play Iago instead.
Well, and again, that really, we don't know what, because we haven't even seen a trailer. They've only just barely
get Iago.
Yeah, especially considering what they may be going for. And looking at the actor they've cast for Jafar, granted, it's in him in civilian outfit, so I'm thinking, okay, I'll wait till I see a trailer, because again, makeup and for I haven't seen him acting in anything. Makeup and wardrobe can do wonders, for lack of a better way to phrase it.
I'm going to be more interested if they actually recreate the snake staff than I am going to be criticizing, because Jafar is not exactly the hardest thing to play. I mean, he is I have a feeling, because I looked this guy's resume up. He could play a villain. Okay. There's no issue there. And makeup is going to define this. And so is our props. Really. That's what people want. They want the iconic snake staff. They want the iconic string goatee that he has. And they want for him to be as Jafar as he possibly can be. But, well, that's more on the actor and also on trying to sell the personage. And I think it's in a solid place.
Yeah, again, for me, I'm going to withhold judgment until I at least start seeing production stills and trailers, until I actually start getting an idea of what this film's going to look like. Again, this is Guy Ritchie. It's very much 50-50 how this film's going to turn out.
What are just off the top of my head, I know that name's familiar, but I can't think of what he's done.
Sherlock Holmes?
Well, he did the 2 Sherlock Holmes movies. He also did I don't remember the other. I think he was the director of Train Spotting. But yeah, he's more well known for the Sherlock Holmes films with Robert Downey Jr. and most recently his attempt at Arthurian lore with King Arthur: Legend of the Sword, which was a mess.
Train Spotting was Danny Boyle.
See,
oh,
Sherlock Holmes would have said more for him, in my opinion, but then you brought up Arthur, and
yeah, again,
my reaction.
Guy Ritchie is very much, hit or miss. It's literally 50-50 that this film will either be really good or it'll be too insane to really follow. So again, flip a coin. You've got about as much odds of having it land on its side.
Okay, so moving on into the next one. This was actually something, again, that was going to be covered last week, but we didn't have a final solution. So in case you guys hadn't seen, Colin Trevorrow, I think that's how you say his name. Colin Trevorrow had stepped down from directing episode 9. And I don't believe we actually got an official reason for it aside from creative differences, did we? I don't have the article.
No, just the usual. It's just the usual corporate spin.
Yeah. So we had that, and I mean, that whole week. In fact, what I was going to do last week was there was so much speculation on who should take Colin's place in directing episode 9, and a lot of good ideas got brought out, including episode 8's Rian Johnson, and obviously J.J. Abrams got brought up because he'd done episode 7. Gareth Edwards, I think, got brought up because of Rogue One. And then we also got the usual suspects of James Cameron, amongst, like, James Cameron wants to do a Star Wars movie. Let this be the one he does. So we got a bunch of suggestions, but, well, that's been solved because it's been officially announced J.J. Abrams will be helming episode 9. Originally, he was supposed to only helm episode 7, but now he has decided to come back and finish the trilogy that he has started. So let's just go into that right off the bat. Like, our initial thoughts, is it a good idea for JJ to come back?
I'm kind of leaning a bit into the negative here, mostly because, I mean, all we have right now to go off of is The Force Awakens, but I guess if you also want to take any of other JJ's films into account, I just feel like he's kind of he plays very safe and he's very derivative. I mean, we've already harped on how basically The Force Awakens was a beat for beat retelling of A New Hope with a new coat of paint. That's, I think, what a lot of people are concerned about, that right now episode 9 is going to be basically another either highly derivative or another kind of retelling of an earlier Star Wars movie.
Yeah, and you know what? I would kind of understand that.
Yeah, it's almost kind of fitting when you think about it, though, that he started with episode 7, and then he'll close out the trilogy, much like how Lucas started with A New Hope, and then directed Return of the Jedi. And I'm kind of in the same camp as Alex, because the main criticism I had with The Force Awakens was that it was lacking any real thought to the image composition. It lacked that Kurosawa edge that pretty much helped define Star Wars as Star Wars, because Abrams is very much a proponent of the mystery box approach to filmmaking, where he's good at writing and keeping you on your toes with the mystery, but his skills with visual composition leave a lot to be desired. And so, I mean, at the very least, you're bringing someone who's worked with the franchise and kind of knows where the story is going. Yeah. So it's a safe bet, but I'm kind of in the same camp where I'm worried that the film may be weaker as a result, because, again, very derivative. He doesn't put a lot of thought into the composition. And so the film, at the very least, is more or less probably going to be another retread. Let's just hope that they don't add more Ewoks or some derivative thereof.
Let's just hope they don't add more Muppets. Is that where you were going for?
Well, I'm fine with Muppets, but if they're actually, like, you know, they add to the story and aren't just put in to sell toys. Now, again, I don't got any real problems with the Ewoks, because at least it's not the worst the Star Wars franchise has produced in terms of marketable creatures. But again, I just hope we don't have Lucasfilm and Disney say, oh, you need to add this thing so we can sell more toys, because that's what happened with Return of the Jedi, and that's kind of my concern here. I mean, hopefully the story will at least be good enough to keep me invested, but in its execution, I'm concerned that it's probably not going to be as strong a film as it could be.
See, for me, I find myself on the other end of the spectrum than the panel. I mean, I get the arguments that you guys are making, and they're valid ones. But the way that I'm kind of looking at it is, even watching Force Awakens as many times as I have, I've still not been horribly disappointed with it. Like, I see the problems that a lot of people have with the JJ isms that got brought into it, but as much as I see them, they don't affect the story to me. They don't affect the story that's being told, the visuals that are being meant for me to see. So I don't necessarily have as much negativity towards JJ. And again, this also probably stems from the fact that, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, I didn't hate the Star Trek movies that he did. I like them. I like them all. I like the 2009 Trek. I liked Into Darkness, and I liked the interesting twists that he tried to apply to it. And I even liked Star Trek Beyond, which wasn't even his. So, I don't necessarily. I guess it's just because I don't have the raw experience that a lot of other people have with JJ, but what I have with him, I don't hate. So I actually like the idea, because I actually was against him not directing all of them. Now, granted, you're right. Lucas didn't direct Empire, but I actually didn't like the idea of bringing in Rian Johnson for episode 8. I thought that would actually hurt the consistency between them, because now you have different directors, different vision, and all that. But I understood Disney's argument on the matter. So I'm kind of glad that he's being brought back, because at least we can get put back on a more consistent note for a trilogy that's probably going to be, at least for, I'm going to say my generation, probably the last trilogy we'll see. So I might be wrong about that, but I'm just going to guess. Because who knows? Maybe,
come on.
Maybe there'll be another Star Wars movie when I'm senile. But I mean, that's how long we've had to wait.
Well, true, but to be fair, given Disney's plans, it's probably a case where this will close out the trilogy, but they're still going to do the spinoffs, and they'll probably start another trilogy with a new story, probably even a new cast, and basically keep this going as long as they possibly can, as Disney slowly finds its way to dominate every facet of Hollywood.
Yeah. The other aspect, though, that I also want to toss in here, because listeners caught on to this as well. People might remember episode 9 was actually supposed to change the release date kind of dogma that we've had from the last couple of Star Wars movies. So we were supposed to have episode 8 happen this holiday season, and then I think it's the Han Solo movies next. That was going to be coming out in the summer, and then from there on in, we were going to get Star Wars movies in the summer. And they have actually officially announced now that will not be the case, because the release date has been changed for episode 9. It will be, I believe, December 20th, 2019. So let me just double check here. It originally was May 24th, but now it is December 20th, 2019. So, and I know a lot of people who have been screaming about that, because we wanted our summer Star Wars movie. Meh. And this is, again, going to be where I deviate from the norm, because I like having these Star Wars movies to look forward to during the holiday season. That usually gives me something to be excited for at the end of the year, and to end out the year on a brighter note, so to speak. Although, I guess with Rogue One, I didn't really end that on a bright note. But you guys get what I mean. I like having cool holiday movies to look forward to, and I actually like the idea of moving Star Wars back to it. Along with the whole JJ issues, because if you guys want to get into that some more, what are you guys' thoughts on the delay that now has happened with episode 9?
I don't know. I really would prefer. I hate going out when I don't have to in December, because it's cold. It's just for a little frame of context here, everybody. I mean, of course it's cold. It's December, but here in the state of Utah, December is typically our snowiest month. That's usually when we get the more snow, assuming it's a good year, not abnormally dry or anything. So it's just a hassle to drive in the snow when I don't have to for a movie. So generally, I kind of prefer my movies like Star Wars in the summer or late spring.
That, and you don't want to get pissed off when you actually have to go to the movie theater with me, and I'm just out in a shirt and shorts, and you're like bundled up head to toe.
That too.
Because you know what, that pissed you. You guys don't realize this. I wish I could take a picture of it, but he gets pissed when that happens. When we go to like early winter movies, and guys, I'm just not that cold, and he is, and he's like,
yeah, I look at him and like, I hate you right now.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, because you run the heater in your Jeep a lot more than I do in my car, and I think my wife's actually gotten mad at me a couple of times because I actually did run the AC. Because I was like, I'm actually warm in the car. I kind of want to cool off. But Romney, where are you standing with the delay that has now happened?
Honestly, basically, I've grown numb to really react to any delays because I'm just kind of sick of this cycle of hype everyone keeps trying to build up with these movies. Because honestly, to me, I'm like, okay, yes, delay it. If it means you're going to actually take the time to make a better movie, then by all means, pull it back. Because better to actually take the time to make something great than basically shove it out the door and have it be passable. That's one of the reasons why I've stopped watching the Marvel movies, is because that's what the Marvel movies do, is that we just shove it out the door because it's passable, because we know the fanboys are going to pay to see it.
Well, and on top of that, like, it is kind of essential at this point, because not only is JJ going to be directing, he's going to be writing this thing. So I can already tell you that Colin Trevorrow's script has not been approved. And we don't know how much actual work that JJ is going to be walking into. Maybe he's going to salvage some of Colin's work. We don't necessarily know all that. So the delay might be necessary at this point. They don't even have an approved story yet.
Especially when you consider that much of the story of all the Star Wars films going forward aren't even being left solely to the screenwriters. You have the Lucasfilm Story Council that basically oversees anything being added to the Star Wars universe, be it the movies, the spin-off movies, or even the extended universe. Everything has to go through the Story Council because they want to make sure everything is consistent, because that was kind of the problem of the extended universe before the Disney buyout, was that there were too many contradictions with one another. And so, for all we know, the delay could be to rework the script, but they still probably had the overarching narrative planned out when they decided to make Episode 7 onward.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I don't necessarily hate the delay. I think it actually might be in the best interest, so that JJ can go work on the script, maybe even keep him more consistent with the story that's been told. Especially since he wasn't supposed to be the Episode 9 director. So now he gets the opportunity to kind of finish the trilogy off in whatever tone he wants to finish it off on. Granted, it actually gets approved by this Lucasfilm Council kind of thing. But there really isn't a whole lot to add on to this stuff, aside from congratulations to JJ. Here's hoping that you can maybe step outside of your box and actually take some chances and try to do something new or something innovative with Episode 9 that you didn't necessarily do in Episode 7. I think that would be an awesome thing for you to at least try out and do. But we'll wait to see what happens in 2019 after we've had Episode 8 as well as the Han Solo movie. So moving right along, we get to go back into the negative because so I just want to start this off by the new Netflix Death Note. Did anybody on this panel see it?
No.
Nope.
Yeah, that's what I thought. None of us saw it, and I'm trying to think. Romney, you're a Death Note fan.
Well, yes and no. I was of the previous live action trilogy. I was actually going to do a review of the Netflix Death Note, but the person who owned the Netflix subscription I was using canceled their subscription. Then the cold making me unable to do anything for like a good couple of weeks kind of put the kibosh on that. So it's not for lack of trying. I just haven't been able to see it.
But at the same time, like you know the characters, you know the setting, you know all that stuff, and you probably saw. I'm actually trying to think. Did you see any of the trailers? I intentionally avoided them.
I did see the first trailer and did watch some of the analyses of said trailers, especially Mother's Basement analysis that kind of tried to defend the initial trailers, but also criticize some of the elements. And, well, so I did have a little bit of a horse in the race, but it wasn't one that I was riding wholeheartedly.
Yeah, so, I mean, and I know that we covered the Willem Dafoe casting for Ryuk on the podcast, but yeah, I intentionally avoided the live-action Death Note Netflix movie trailers and all that because after I'd heard the whole initial concept of US-ifying or Americanizing Death Note, I was like, nope, this ain't gonna work, and I stepped away. And Romney sounds like stepped away. Alex, you're not a Death Note fan, so it doesn't really even matter. But people saw it. I know that at least my niece, who's a big Death Note fan, after I introduced it to her, she saw it. She wasn't happy. But people have been, well, making their opinions known to one Adam Wingard. I believe he was the director of it, wasn't he? Or no, yes. Was he their head writer?
He was the director.
He was the director. So Adam Wingard has been getting, well, pelted with criticism for the Death Note movie. And part of me, I'm just going to be honest, put my cards on the table, guys. I don't see why. Because as many, like, we have tweets covering this. Like, there were diehard Death Note fans that went off against Adam Wingard. Why? Because as a diehard Death Note fan, you should have known that this was going to be crap. I'm not trying to be rude here, but I didn't see any of the trailers. I knew it was going to be crap given what I knew about the plot. That they were going to take all of the elements of Death Note and Americanize it. Well, that's going to work well. So I get why you guys are pissed off, but at the same time, I'm just sitting here going, well, why did you see the movie in the first place? That's a problem. So long story short, Adam Wingard actually did put out some responses to people. And in fact, right before he went to go work on Godzilla versus Kong, he actually did go dark and, in fact, deleted his Twitter account. Some people are debating whether or not it was because of him going dark or because of the Death Note harassment that he was getting from fans. I would tend to think it probably was him going dark for Godzilla versus Kong. I'm not 100% on that, though. But let's just get into this. So, Alex, you're kind of the most untouched on this matter because you're not a Death Note fan, but your reaction to the abuse, harassment that Adam Wingard got, and was he actually in the right to be able to actually tell off a few of these guys before he went dark on Twitter? And do you actually think it was because do you think he deleted his Twitter because of Death Note, or do you think he went dark for Godzilla versus Kong?
That I can't say for certain about where he went dark, why he went dark. I'd almost think it is the tweets, but, I don't see a problem with him replying and telling people off. I mean, there is the notion, don't feed the trolls, but, at the same time, I guess, do what you have to do to protect yourself. But I have to see your point, too, that it's like, you kind of knew what you're getting into by watching this. Why are you really surprised?
I mean, why are you going to go open what this thing was going to be? I know, because I had to, trip over myself to try and avoid a lot of that stuff. But I mean, you knew what was going to be, so I just don't get why you're legitimately pissed.
Yeah, it's just like
you would have known to watch it.
It's just you. And frankly, it's not worth, I think, going to Twitter to harass the guy. You want to make your own reviews, that's fine. There's plenty of them, but I don't think you need to get on Twitter to tell the director he sucks.
No. Because here's the thing, is like, as much as we love the anime, like, and Alex, you're an anime reviewer, Romney's done it from time to time. Once it gets handed to, like, the perfect example that I can give to you guys is Shiro Masamune and Mamoru Oshii. Okay. When Oshii got given Ghost in the Shell, will we say that him and Masamune were on the same page? I would dare say no, we weren't. So with a different person comes a different vision, comes a different reality that can be realized. And so at that point, for people to get pissed off that Adam Wingard, who is not the creator of Death Note, went off in his own directions, probably even got kind of urged to go in those directions to Americanize it, put it in, I guess it's based in Seattle, and they Americanized a lot of the characters. That's what happened. It's a different director, it's a different vision. So I get why you guys are mad, but it was put out pretty openly that this is what's going to happen.
If anything, follow the real chain of custody here. Go beyond the director, go beyond the writer, go beyond even the producers, go beyond Netflix, go to Shueisha, who is the original publisher of Death Note, who would have had to sign over the rights to Netflix to make this, and go get mad at them for letting it get made.
And here, the part that throws me off too is that the article that we're following on Anime News Network actually says that the manga creators Sugumi Oba and Takeshi Obata had positive words for the Netflix movie.
Well, yeah,
so it's like, yeah, we liked some of this stuff.
Well, yeah, and what people forget is that, and one of the producers, Masaoka, who many people may remember as Hiro from Heroes, was one of the producers, and he was in active communication with the Death Note creators throughout the production, making sure he got their okay on almost everything. So it's very much one of those cases, and to kind of get into my thoughts, people, it's just a movie. Calm down. Because that's the first thing I have to say. It's just, Jesus Christ, it's not like he kicked your baby. I mean, jeez.
Well, if he kicked my baby, then I'd be pissed at him. But like, can we all just have a moment and have some green tea and relax? Can we take that moment and scream into our pillow or whatever and just kind of get over the fact that it's a different director, it's a different vision? And I didn't even know that part. They were incorrect. They were in communication, which means they had a constant string of approval. And yet you're mad. Well, then that means you're mad at the creators because the creators liked it.
Yeah, and so really, it's never really good. This sort of harassment doesn't really accomplish anything. I mean, and so I don't really blame Wingard for deleting the account, especially given that he's got other projects to work on. But really, people, I mean, I don't say this that much because I know how passionate people are, but it's just a movie, people. It's not like they botched the second coming of Christ. I mean, jeez.
Yeah, and I think the Anime News Network actually tried to quote some of the tweets that he sent out. One of them was, "Sorry, trolls, but the artist always wins in the long run. I love how many people feel personally attacked by this tweet. It's sick, almost like troll bait. Those that expose themselves." I think I'm reading that right.
Yeah.
Just. Guys, he's right. In the end, it's the creator themselves who win out of this because they get to have the argument of, if people are screaming at you, you did something right. And all Wingard did was exercise his own creativity on the matter. Well,
there's passion. There's passion and then there's just plain douchebaggery. And if you're going to go harass a guy on Twitter, then you're just being a douchebag.
Yeah.
Please channel that passion into, making a review and just saying you don't like it. There, simple. You don't need to go find you don't need to go find people and plan to murder them. It is just a product of entertainment at the end of the day.
That would be your response, wouldn't it? Is if you didn't like it, Alex, you just review it and then you'd be done. You'd be like, I'm dead.
Yes, I'm done. I'm not going to go try and wish harm or find people to inflict pain upon for wasting my time. I'm just going to say my time was wasted in words. Pen is mightier than the sword. Let's all remember that wonderful phrase.
And again, for the people who want to scream at me and go, well, you're a Death Note fan, and you guys, I literally practiced what I preached. I voted with my dollar and I didn't see it. And I have no intention of seeing it. If it shows up on my queue, it's going to be because somebody else watched it because I have no intention of watching it myself. As much as I like Willem Dafoe as being Ryuk, it's not enough to make me want to go and put myself through that. I'd rather just watch Death Note and be satisfied with that. So yeah, I'm not trying to be a dick here, but Death Note fans, you knew what you were walking into. It's like me trying to complain about Shin Godzilla because it wasn't realistic enough. Guys, I've watched Godzilla movies most of my life. I knew what I was walking into there.
And plus, a better example, it'd be like people getting up in arms because, I mean, a good example, it'd be like people throwing a tantrum because Samuel L. Jackson got cast as Nick Fury. It's the same thing. Things change from medium to medium. Even the live-action Death Note films that I enjoy that were made in Japan made a lot of changes. Honestly, that's actually the reason why I like the live-action films more than the actual anime and manga, because some of the deviations were deviations I liked, but that's the nature of adaptation. Things are going to change. You need to learn that, to accept that. I mean, it sucks, but it's a case of, well, if you don't like the changes they're making, Neil deGrasse Tyson put it best. If you're going to complain about the movie, then just go back and read the book, because clearly that's the version of the story you like.
I guess I shouldn't be the one to complain, because I actually was one of those guys that complained about Samuel L. Jackson being Nick Fury, but that was just because I wanted the original 70s Nick Fury. Nothing against Samuel L. Jackson, but at that point I was done with this mother effing Samuel L. Jackson going into all of his mother effing movies. And so I wanted a different, like, as soon as I knew they were going Nick Fury, I'm like, that's Sam Jackson. That's where they're going to go, because they have no other means to go. But yeah, it's just one of those cases where you can sit there and complain about it all the time, or you can at least give it a chance. And if it doesn't work out, well, it doesn't work out. At that point, it was a Netflix movie. So what did you lose out of it? Because you could go and watch the original Death Note on Netflix. You could literally wash the bad taste out of your mouth with the original. So yeah, there really isn't a whole lot to go into that. But Romney, do you think it was actually because he deleted his account because of the harassment, or do you think it was because he was going dark?
I think it was just more going dark to work on Godzilla vs. Kong, because Joss Whedon did the same thing of, oh, I have to get off Twitter because I have to work on a script. And let's face it, Twitter can be a time sink if you're not careful. If you spend too much time on it, you don't get anything done. So naturally, it makes sense that you want to unplug and get away from it. So that way basically, if he had stayed on Twitter, chances are Godzilla vs. Kong would have ended up like the Ghostbusters reboot, where the real world easily seeps into the story when it doesn't need to. Because that was Paul Feig's mistake.
Yeah, that's actually the joke that I was about to go for, which is like, well, movies have since recently taught me that if I was actually going to write a movie script, that unlike the Ghostbusters movie, I would detach from my Facebook, my Twitter, and all of that to go work on this property and then go deal with the criticism afterwards. Unlike the Ghostbusters writers who didn't. So, all right. So moving right along, we have one final story to get into, and then we're going to wrap things up for the evening. And this one was actually brought to us by a listener today. And caught my eye. So I want to say, is it October or November? We have Blade Runner 2049. I think it's an October release.
Let me check. I have the article up here.
And Let's
see.
October. October 6th, 2017. So we have a new Blade Runner coming in the next few months, or in the next month. And as an added point to advertise Blade Runner 2049, Shinichiro Watanabe, known for being the director of Cowboy Bebop, Samurai Champloo, and I believe Space Dandy is his too. But don't quote me on that. Yeah, it is. He has actually been brought on to do a short anime called Blade Runner Blackout 2022. And it will take place a few years after the first movie, and according to NetLab, is set during a power outage. So the article that we're going off of is from Kotaku. It looks like the work that has influenced, so this is directly from Watanabe, the work that has influenced me the most in my anime profession would be, of course, Blade Runner, which would make sense considering what he's actually done. So I know people who are absolutely excited at the idea of Watanabe touching the Blade Runner universe. I know people who are immediately dreading it because they're afraid this is going to be a whole Animatrix thing and he's only going to get so much time and there's going to be so many others. From what I can tell and glean from the articles that I found on it, it's just one. It's just the short that he's doing. And if that's the case, I think this is a great idea. I actually can't think of a better anime director off the top of my head that could probably give us the mood of Blade Runner than Watanabe. I mean, unless you guys can think of another one.
Well, off the top of my head, aside from Watanabe, I mean, one director I'd want to see take a spin with Blade Runner would probably be Shinji Aramaki, who's mostly known for 3D. And the key big difference here is, let's face it, The Matrix is not a perfect franchise. It has a lot of problems, and that's kind of the issue with the Animatrix was, okay, it went a little too far out there, whereas the world of Blade Runner has kind of a clearly defined world. So if they were to do an Animatrix sort of treatment for Blade Runner, it wouldn't be nearly as trippy as the Animatrix was. I mean, we already seen a good example of that with Batman Gotham Knight, where we had basically various animation directors doing their various takes on Batman, because Batman as a story has kind of a grounded base to pull from.
Yeah, and again, according to the research that I did, that's not what this is. This is just going to be one short. This is not going to be a compilation of shorts. I think we've kind of passed that era when we would get these compilation shorts put together. And I'm not saying all of them were bad, because Alex would murder me. He loves Gotham Knight. I'm kind of 50-50 with it. I think
I don't know if I love it. I liked it. And I liked Halo Legends.
But at that point, I think we're past that era. So, but as far as casting, I mean, like right off the bat, I wanted to say Oshii, but I actually don't like him now that I think about it. I think he'd get way too meta with the whole concept, and therefore it would lose something. But Watanabe is really the only one that stands out to me that Shinji Aramaki you brought up. I kind of like that one too. The other one that came to me was, and I don't think he can anymore because I think he passed away, Satoshi Kon.
Yeah, he passed away.
Yeah, Satoshi Kon might have done something interesting with it, but no, I like Watanabe as the cast. What about you, Alex?
Kenji Kamiyama comes to mind because of his work on Standalone Complex.
Okay, but in that case, would that? Well, I was about to say, like, isn't he going to go down the Oshii trail? But Standalone didn't really do that, so I can't necessarily make that claim. I think it held true to a lot of the traits of the Oshii film, but it's also tried to define itself. So, I mean, there's a couple of really good candidates in there, but I still like Watanabe in this particular one. I'm especially interested because I'm not the biggest of Blade Runner fans, but I'd still watch this, especially to prep up for Blade Runner 2049. I'd do it.
Yeah, and I'm definitely curious about it because I've been on the fence regarding Blade Runner 2049, mainly just in terms of to me, it just felt like, a potentially unnecessary sequel because they're trying to capitalize on nostalgia. Granted, the original short story, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, there's a lot you can do with the concept, especially when you consider what replicants are. The world of Blade Runner, it has something you can actually draw upon for further stories. And so, who knows? Maybe I'll watch this and see. I'll watch this OVA or ONA, I guess, since it's going to be debuted on the Sony Pictures Japan YouTube channel. So maybe I'll take a look at this and see if it actually gets me interested in watching the actual film when it comes out.
Yeah, and I'm kind of there with you. I mean, ever since we got the announcement of Blade Runner 2049, I was kind of sitting there going, why? I'm still kind of there. We've seen a couple of trailers, and I'm interested, but I'm still kind of sitting there going, why does this have to happen? But at the very least, I think I'm going to take your viewpoint, Romney. I'm going to watch this and see if it gets me excited. I mean, I'm going to see it either way, but I'm hoping that this gets me excited and gets me absolutely psyched for 2049. Who knows? It may or may not do that. And who knows? Maybe that hype will be worthless by the time the actual movie comes out. And then Alex, I think you gave your thoughts on it, didn't you? Or
no, I haven't really given my thoughts. I just threw out
you
a name.
You gave us a director, and that was about it.
Yeah, I have a mild interest in it. I'm not super deep into Blade Runner myself. I did I did finally watch Cowboy Bebop for the first time recently, so I did enjoy it. And yes, I do agree Watanabe is a really good choice for doing a Blade Runner short. I guess my one concern is I've not been able to narrow down any kind of like running time. I know it's a short, but I mean, how short are we talking about? Are we talking like 15 minutes? Are we talking 30 minutes? Are we
If
talking
it's going up on
5
YouTube,
minutes?
I don't think it's going to be that long.
Yeah, and mostly it's kind of conjuring up kind of the really pointless like animated segment in Kill Bill that they did, which was only about like 7 minutes long, but I think it's even shorter in the movie itself.
Yeah.
So I'm just, I'm fine with him doing a short. I hope the short has a little meat on it. You can do some pretty good stuff with even in a short film. You kind of said we're past the point of the whole anthology collections. Part of me cries for that because I really like those because it's fun to see so many different animators and directors in visions and just trying all different kinds of experiments. Even if not all the shorts turn out to be great, I like the ideas of having so many different creators working on their own little individual shorts and trying out different things. So I'm not saying necessarily Blade Runner needs one of that, but my point is one of the reasons I liked the Halo Legends collection or the Batman Gotham Knight collection is we saw some really short stories, but the stories had they were really good for their short amount of time. It could be even as short as 11 minutes. I still got a really satisfying little story out of it. So that's just my hope is that he's going to have just enough time to tell a really good little short story, and it's not just going to be crushed under the weight of its length.
Yeah, and I'll admit the announcement that it's coming out on YouTube kind of worries me in that regard because, I mean, granted, we've seen companies do more than that, more than like 20, 25 minutes. I mean, heck, Disney XD just barely released the pilot for the new DuckTales, and that's a 40, 50-minute deal. But given that it was a YouTube announcement, that does make me think that it's going to be like within that 20 to 25-minute demographic, or not demographic, but within that 20 to 25-minute timetable. Well,
to me, that's actually pretty optimistic because usually these direct-to-YouTube shorts are like less than 5 minutes, like all the little Pokemon shorts that the Pokemon Company did last year.
Yeah, I think at the very most you're going to get like 20, 25, maybe even 30 minutes out of it, and
which is nice because I mean, 25 minutes is like standard OVA length anyway. So at least I'd appreciate. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking that's really optimistic. I'm probably predicting no more than 10 minutes.
All right. So yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up our thoughts on the Blade Runner 2049 or 2022 Blackout that we're going to be getting in the next little bit. And who knows, maybe you'll actually see both me and Alex tackle that, and we'll watch it before we go see 2049 and see whether or not it helped the hype train or it hurt it, or if we considered it better than 2049. Who knows? But that's actually going to go ahead and do it for our agenda tonight, and also for us because we're coming up on that 2-hour mark. So let's go ahead and wrap things up for the evening. If people want to get a hold of us to talk about the various stories we talked about today, or maybe even some stories that we weren't able to cover, Stephen Romney, how do people get a hold of you to do that?
Well, you can always find me here on YouTube at youtube.com/StudioGhostUtah. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Romney'sReviews, no apostrophe. And I'm also on Twitter at Romney Reviews, and on my newer site, vid.me/StudioGhost. Yes, it's barren, but that is going to change very, very shortly. And as for this week's Romney's recommendation, since we were talking about anime and manga adaptations, it's actually a book I'm recommending called Manga in Theory and Practice by Hirohiko Araki. Now, some of you may recognize the name Hirohiko Araki, as he is best known as the creator of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which, if you're a longtime listener of this podcast, you know I am a fan of that series. Well, he wrote a book on how to write and draw manga. Now, it's not a how to draw book or any of the usual books like, oh, here's how to lay out panels, but it goes more into the method of actually telling an engaging story, of actually trying to create a story and a manga that will actually have staying power, that people will actually want to keep reading. And it very much straight up, it tells you need to learn to draw, learn the basics. And so it's more like the title, about the theory and the practice of creating manga, and it has a lot of applications beyond just creating manga. It has a lot of applications for writing, for filmmaking, and it's been a pretty good read. It's been giving me a lot of insight into how to be a better storyteller. So that's this week's Romney's recommendation, is Manga in Theory and Practice by Hirohiko Araki, available from Viz Media, where all books are sold.
All right. And Alex, if people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Well, the best place to find me is here on YouTube. Shadow Blizzard 3000 is my channel where I do produce anime content and reviews and all sorts of fun stuff. And of course, if you want to follow me on social media, follow me on Twitter at AlexJShort on Twitter. That's where I always announce when I put up a new video. I also like to make announcements when the podcast is live, so there. And a little special treat that I got this week for myself was I picked up E.T. on Blu-ray.
Very nice. You can enjoy E.T. going home. And, well, is this going to be the one that took the guns out, or is this
I
going to be
think it's the original restored onto Blu-ray.
Yeah, Spielberg learned his lesson pretty quickly
Okay,
that taking the guns out was a dumb idea.
Because here's the thing, like, if I was going to show E.T. to my daughter, as much as people might think this is violent, I'd show her the original, not the we have to take them out for walkie-talkies.
Yeah, Spielberg changed his tune like that, so you don't have to worry about that.
Very good. And if people want to get a hold of me, the best place to do so is either on my YouTube channel, which is where you're at right now, youtube.com/Drac2326, or you can reach out to me on Twitter at Drac2326 and give you guys, I'll give you guys my opinions as much as I can. But obviously, in some cases, I may not necessarily fall your way or any way. So just keep that in mind. And if you want to get a hold of or support the podcast directly, here are the best ways to do it. First of all, you can go support our RSS feed on geekyweek.podomatic.com. And that's where the new episodes go. That's what the RSS feed is. And we're working things out to get hosting on other not RSS feeds, but other sites as well, to be able to get even more of you guys into Geek News, as well as those who have been supporting us for many, many years. So yeah, geekyweek.podomatic.com. You can also show your support for the podcast via social media by looking us up on Facebook and liking the Geek News Reviews and Opinions page we have there. You can also support us on Twitter at GeekyNRO. And for those, you'll most of the time get up-to-the-minute information when we're going live, stuff we might be covering, additional stories that we want to be able to get in you guys' hands that maybe we weren't able to talk about on the podcast, stuff like that. And if you guys want to contribute stories as well as feedback, because we do take your feedback and your listener stories, you can do so at geekyweek@gmail.com. But that's going to go ahead and do it for us this evening. Thank you guys so much for continuing to love and support the podcast as much as you guys do. Thank you guys so much that are dealing with various other situations you guys like to let us know. And, we'll support you. We support you as much as we can, but especially with the hurricane situations and all that, we do love and appreciate you guys for continuing to like, comment, subscribe to our various channels, as well as to the podcast. And that's going to go ahead and do it for us. So for me, for Romney, and for Alex, we will see you guys next week for even more geek news, reviews, and opinions.